Hi everybody, Jason Pritchard here. It is the Ides of March and we have an active severe weather day ahead of us. It's been a busy last 18 hours or so and it's going to continue through the day into tonight and into tomorrow as well. And you can see on this map already we've got a high risk for severe weather. These are rare. The Storm Prediction Center does not issue high risk outlooks very often unless there is a risk of a major severe weather outbreak, and that is looking more and more likely. And it's almost imminent for Mississippi into Alabama with a moderate risk surrounding that. So we're going to talk all about that. We've had an active day, as I said. We had storm reports yesterday. A lot of storm reports, a lot of wind damage out here in the upper plains, or mid Mississippi Valley, up here into the Midwest. We've seen wind gusts upwards of 60, 70, even 80 miles an hour in spots, hail above 2 inches in diameter in some spots, and some tornadoes touched down. And unfortunately, there have been some fatalities with this. We also saw widespread winds with this system kick up a lot of dust and spark a lot of wildfires back in Oklahoma and Texas and parts of the plains. There's even a big pileup on, a couple of the interstates out here in Texas that resulted in some fatalities too. So all kinds of weather hazards with this very, very, very strong low pressure that we've been tracking the last couple of days. You'll see this continue to expand as more reports come in, and this will certainly expand into the mid-south and southeast as we go through the day today. Now, looking at our hazards map, we've got a line of severe thunderstorms working through Arkansas, Louisiana, and we'll take a look at that on radar in a minute. We've got wind advisories out, and we're going to see these expand into the day tomorrow as well for gusts of 40 to 50 miles per hour, some high wind warnings, blizzard conditions up here in Minnesota where it's snowing heavily with strong winds, and red flag warnings back in portions of the plains and down here into South Texas where winds are blowing. It's very, very dry, and you've got wildfire spreading rapidly in some of these areas. So be very careful out here. Wind warnings on the west, and of course winter storm warnings where systems are coming into the west coast, and in the higher elevations you're getting lots and lots of snow out here along the west coast. So if we take a look at our radar, look at this. We've already got an active severe weather day kicking off here with severe weather all the way from Louisiana up into Tennessee. All of these storms are warned. You even got a couple of tornado warnings here in Tennessee and down here in Louisiana for some rotation with these cells. The atmosphere is very unstable. We were hoping that some of this convective activity would work into Mississippi and Alabama and work over the atmosphere here. Unfortunately, that did not happen. That was the one fly in the ointment for the severe weather potential today, and that did not happen. So we're seeing clearing in these areas here. As a matter of fact, if we take a look at our satellite picture, you can see the lightning on the map here, but you can also see clearing working into Alabama, and strong southerly flow as a low pressure is developing along Louisiana in response to an upper level jet that's going to push east and northeast, actually up through Tennessee into Kentucky, and it's just going to increase the lift. You can see these clouds streaming in from the south. So you're going to see as a strong low-level jet work into this area this afternoon. Strong southerly flow ahead of that, bringing moisture in off the Gulf. Dew points are going to get into the 60s and mid-60s all the way up here into Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and you're going to see convection start to fire off later today in these areas as the atmosphere becomes more and more unstable. You've still got clouds in Mississippi, but you're going to see so much cooling with height and wind shear, and it's not going to matter because we're going to get lots and lots of instability here. Lots of shear is going to create an environment for tornadoes, and we're going to see a lot of tornadic activity in this area, unfortunately, today. So looking at our Storm Prediction Center, let's go back to our other display here. You can see we looked at this. So high risk, Mississippi, Alabama, moderate risk from Louisiana all the way up into Tennessee, into eastern or western Georgia. Enhanced risk around that, slight risk around that, marginal risk. So yesterday this looked like there might be a greater chance of severe weather up here. That's just not going to happen. The atmosphere is a little bit too stable here. So may see up here in the Ohio Valley a couple of rogue severe storms, but I'm not expecting very much there. And overnight later this evening into tonight, the line will coalesce here and work into the Carolinas. So we'll watch that as we go through the day, looking at our um, excuse me, our current watches that are in effect. We've got a large tornado watch. This is in effect to early afternoon, and then a severe thunderstorm watch a little bit left in that watch here in Texas as well. So that's the current state of the watches. Rolling back over here one more time, just to kind of give you an idea of the category of the threat here. So we've got for tornado, we've got a big 30% area in here where the high risk is 30% of a chance of a tornado within 25 miles of a point. So that's pretty high. I mean, that's really, really high, actually. And then you've got a 15% chance surrounding that, 10% chance surrounding that, 5, and so on. So a lot of your severe weather days, all you have is a 5% risk. This is really unusual to see this kind of risk over the south and southeast. So it doesn't happen all that often. And in the hatched area, again, significant tornadoes possible, EF2 or higher. And in this high risk area, we could see long tracking violent tornadoes, EF3 or higher. So that's what we're looking at there. As far as wind threat goes, looking at a large area of potentially high winds with these supercells. You've got up here in Tennessee, just where you're seeing the strongest low-level jet max. That's where you've got a greater chance of seeing some of those winds mix down. But either way, it's going to be an active day across much of the deep south. One thing I wanted to mention too is yesterday I was talking about mixing in terms of just general wind threat, is how the sun heats the surface, the air rises, and then you get mixing in the atmosphere. And I said something wrong, and I wanted to correct that. I was saying it. I didn't realize until I watched the video back that I said this wrong. But when air rises, it cools, and then air from up here in the upper or the lower levels of the atmosphere sinks to the ground, and you get this overturning, you get this mixing. When air sinks, of course, it dries out and it warms up. So you get warm, dry air a lot of times in the afternoons, and you'll see the winds come up with that. So I meant to say it sinks and it warms, and I said it sinks and it cools. And of course, that's not true. Rising produces cooling and condensation. So that's how you get clouds and precipitation. And so that's the story with that. So looking at our satellite again, we see a lot of lightning with these. There were a lot of lightning on electrical activity with these storms yesterday over the plains, and we'll continue to see that today with these storms too. Now, let's take a look at what's going on here. So I'm going to switch to my other display so you can see this well. And this is off of Pivotal. This is our CAPE. So we've been looking at CAPE, which is fuel for thunderstorms this afternoon. And we're going to put this in motion. This is this morning heading into the afternoon. So early afternoon, we're seeing mixed layer CAPE values of 2,000 where the yellow and kind of the orange color are, and 1,000 up here where you've got these blue colors. More than enough CAPE with the strongly sheared environment that's in place for severe weather and tornadoes. So that just moves on across. It dies out a little bit. So as we get on into later tonight and the cooling of the day happens, you get, the CAPE kind of dies off here. But you've got plenty of instability for thunderstorms in this area. Our significant tornado parameter index, so as we work through the morning, that continues to climb. These yellows are high values. You really get into high values with the deep reds and the purples. And it just shows you the potential as we go through the afternoon. Mississippi, Alabama, even working into Georgia, some of these high values exist. So the conditions are very favorable for strong tornadoes in this area. We've been looking at these parameters the last few days, and nothing has really changed. Nothing has come down, and we're seeing just a high potential for severe thunderstorms and rotating thunderstorms. They're going to rotate quickly, and they're going to spin up tornadoes quickly as well. And again, some of those can be strong. This is your helicity, updraft helicity track. So essentially, if you're having basically, this is just showing you where the rotating thunderstorms are going to be and where they potentially could produce tornadoes. So any of these tracks could produce a tornado. And even where you don't see tracks, don't take this model literally. This is just showing you that it thinks at some point supercells are going to develop, and you're going to have lots of them, and they're going to track, they're going to rotate. So that's what you want to take away from this. So where you see it, this kind of blank space in here. Don't let your guard down. No model knows exactly where thunderstorms are going to develop. This is a general idea, and it's a fairly concerning map to see all of these thunderstorms with the potential for rotation. And then we've got our radar imagery, which you're familiar with. This is the forecast radar. This is the triple eight or the HRRR model, the HER model, or the HR cubed model, whatever you want to call it. Short range model, high res model. It's showing that line of thunderstorms that we saw warned out here in Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee. That breaks apart as we get into the afternoon, and we start to see this low pressure that we've been talking about, the secondary wave as a result of an upper level trough coming in and an upper level jet max. So this is all going to develop a low pressure that's going to scoot up into the Tennessee Valley, enhance the lift, enhance the low level jet, and really enhance the spin in the lower levels of the atmosphere. And the other thing too is this line of storms is what it's doing. Also, it's sort of laying out boundaries in this area, and so these boundaries these outflow boundaries can act as focal points for additional severe weather and also rotation. So a lot of factors coming into play to lead to a very high severe weather day here. So as we go on through the afternoon, this is afternoon, early afternoon, we get into mid-afternoon, we're starting to see these supercells develop all throughout Alabama, Mississippi and Alabama, eventually working into Georgia before sort of coalescing into a line as we get into the later evening. And you can kind of see that idea take shape here on the model. So all of this will be out of Mississippi. The timing of this is really 1, 2, 3 o'clock here. You're getting into Alabama, 6, 7, 8, working through Alabama, 9, 10, 11, getting into Georgia. So we're talking about overnight and then getting into the Carolinas through the evening and overnight. So watch your local weather. If you live in these areas here, be prepared to take shelter, have your storm cellar or your safe place ready, and have your helmet, if you've got a helmet, ready, have water, have shoes, have everything that you need to be able to walk around safely in the event that something happens. Make sure that you've got your multiple ways of being alerted, weather radio, phone alerts, pay attention to local news outlets. You're going to have multiple folks warning you today. This is an active day, and so you're going to see warnings come in from a lot of different places. Just make sure you're able to receive those and pay attention. Do not take this lightly. I would cancel all my plans for today in those areas there. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is quickly was a sounding. I pulled this off essentially off the border of Mississippi and Alabama, and just a massive turning in the low levels with height. That's what this graph is showing you, and then increasing speed as you go up in the atmosphere. Look at this. This is a sounding of the atmosphere. By the way, if you don't know what a sounding is, it's essentially just a measurement of a depth of something. Like back in the old days, ships used to drop lines with weights on them into the water to see where the bottom was so they wouldn't run aground. That's called a sounding. And in the weather world, sounding is essentially a measurement of the atmosphere. And you can do that a couple of different ways. One of the primary ways we do it is launching weather balloons. And so we get an idea of what the actual atmosphere looks like at a given point in time. And then models can predict that based on those current observations through their algorithms. They go ahead and predict what's going to happen. And they can predict soundings too. And so looking at this prediction for later this afternoon or early afternoon, you see a few things that are of note. Of course, this is telling you here, this big sickle-shaped hodograph tells you that there's turning with height. You've got a big sickle. That means a lot of wind turning in the lower part of the atmosphere. That's necessary for tornadogenesis. And now you can see here's your actual wind barbs through the height of the atmosphere. This goes all the way up to the top of the troposphere. But down here at the surface, you've got winds out of the southeast, turning to the south, turning to the south-southwest, turning to the southwest, and increasing with speed with height. That is an ideal recipe for rotating supercells and tornado formation. And over here, this just tells you temperature profile of the atmosphere and the moisture content of the atmosphere as you go up through the atmosphere. And so if you look at some of the numbers being put out here, you're looking at mixed layer CAPE of 2300 down here. I don't know if you can see that or not. See if I can move this over where you can see it, or maybe change to a different view. Yeah, let's take a look at this view. This is a little bit better, and we can see this. We don't need to spend a lot of time here, but look at this. These CAPE numbers: surface-based CAPE 2685, mixed layer CAPE 2329. That's really impressive. Storm relative helicity values over 300, very impressive, which all equates to a potential strong environment for tornadoes. So we're looking at a serious situation. It's all you can say. It's time to take it serious. We've been looking at this for several days, and now it's time. Now it's time. It's here. So watch out this afternoon across Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Tennessee, and keep your weather radios handy. So no need to belabor that anymore. You know the drill by now. We've been talking about it for days. Tomorrow, the threat shifts over here into the eastern seaboard from Florida up to Virginia, and we're going to see a little bit less in the way of severe weather here. The instability is less, as we can actually see here on our CAPE map. Let's go here and look at it, and I'll switch back to the other view so we can see it. But here's our CAPE, and let me scroll down here a little bit so we can get the whole picture. So we're going to put this into motion, and you can see not very much in the way of CAPE comes through tomorrow afternoon. Look at that. So we're looking at 300, 400, 500 joules of CAPE. That's not a lot. However, the environment is very sheared, and when you have a very sheared environment, you don't need a lot of CAPE necessarily. And so the threat is going to be less. There's a little bit less in the way of a tornado threat here, and marginal wind threat. So we're going to watch out in this area. Our energy helicity index showing us where we could potentially see some rotation. That we'll move that on into motion. So this is overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning, and we start to see some values creep in here, but none of those big oranges or yellows or anything like that. So we're not until we get maybe way into the afternoon and the heating of the day happens, you get a little bit of a higher values here, but you really want to see values over 2 to really be concerned about lots of tornadic activity. In this area, though, I would say Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, just be aware. I mean, obviously, there's going to be some severe weather here. There's probably going to be severe weather or severe wind reports. Tornadic activity could happen, with the line. You could get some spin-ups along with the line, but we don't see a lot of necessary ingredients here in the parameter space coming together to make a massive tornado outbreak here. So be aware for a few tornadoes that are maybe on the weaker side, as well as some gusts up into the potentially 60s if the line can organize and make use of some of this instability. So that's what we're looking at there as far as the radar goes and timing on all of that. Let's go up here and take a look. So overnight tonight, getting into tomorrow morning, we're seeing that line push into the western part of the state as we get into the early hours of the morning. And then, by 8 a.m., it's in the western triad area of North Carolina up into central Virginia, central South Carolina, moving in. And it's organizing a little bit better as the atmosphere heats up and a little bit more instability takes shape. So of most concern is probably, if we draw a little line here, I'll show you where I think the biggest chance of severe weather is going to end up being. It's in these areas here toward the coast through the end of the day. That's where I would keep my guard up as we get into lunchtime and on through the evening in those areas there. And so we'll put this on into motion and finish it out. And this goes off. By the way, this is associated with a little bit of a prefrontal trough. So the front's actually still back here in the mountains. And so you could see a little bit of a secondary line of showers and thunderstorms develop, but all of the parameters by that time will not favor severe weather. So these should just be benign showers, benign thunderstorms. So that is your severe weather threat for the next couple of days. The other couple of things I just wanted to show you a little bit. You see this a lot on TV, okay? You see Doppler radar indicated tornadoes. You hear that all the time, and you see these images of the Doppler radar, and sometimes people don't really explain what we're looking at. Everybody's kind of familiar with the precipitation mode of the radar, showing where the rain is, where the thunderstorms, the red, the purples indicate higher levels of reflectivity, which could mean heavy rain or hail or something like that. And you've probably, if you've paid attention to the weather and you've paid attention to tornado outbreaks, you've seen these hook echoes. They always talk about the hook echo. So what happens here is you're looking at precipitation falling. Okay, and let's get on a better display so we can see this better. All right, so you got this big, you got a supercell thunderstorm here. This is what this radar image is showing. You've got this big area of rain, and then you've got this hook So why is there no rain here? Rain's not falling in this. It's because this is where the updraft is. The updraft of the thunderstorm is here. It's rotating and it's stretched down to the ground, and you've potentially got a tornado here. This is indicative of rotation in the atmosphere. It doesn't tell you if the tornado is on the ground, but it tells you that there's a lot of rotation here. And you see this hole in the precipitation because the updraft is pushing the air up violently, and raindrops can't fall through it. And if raindrops can't fall through it, the radar is coming through here and it's not hitting anything to reflect the radar beam back, and so you don't get a reflection there. And so it appears on the radar image as this little hole or donut shape. So when you see this on your precipitation radar mode, look at that. It's a hook. It's indicative of rotation. You would warn this storm immediately for a tornado. Now, you also see a Doppler radar all the time. They talk about, on Doppler radar, they talk about velocity. So this is where you can actually see the wind, get an idea of what the wind is doing in the upper atmosphere. The green is toward the radar. So if you got a radar sight here, green is toward the radar, red is away from the radar. And so where you get these little couplets way out here in the middle of this green field, for example, you've got strong green values showing up here, meaning strong winds toward the radar, right up against strong values away from the radar. That's indicative of rotation. So when you hear people talk about this and you see these images on the radar, that's what they're looking at. These really tight, they call them couplets sometimes, but it's this couplet of strong away, strong towards, right next to each other, and that's where the rotation is. That's where the tornado would be. And here's a better example of that. You've got this green, even some blue showing up. This is very, very strong winds moving toward the radar, and this is very, very strong winds moving away from the radar. So you've got this counterclockwise rotation right here. This is where the tornado would be if there was one on the ground. And they use these Doppler images to warn tornadoes when they start to see this kind of a couplet here. So I wanted you to know that. It's kind of neat. And so you see it on the news and they just kind of talk through it quickly. Sometimes they don't really explain it. That's what's going on there. There's Google. If we want to type in anything and search for stuff, we can go to Google. That's a tip of the day. Go to Google if you want to know things. Okay, cold rain tip of the day. Other weather stations are not going to show you that kind of stuff. So now you know about Google. This is a fire weather map. This is the other important thing that's going on here. Out in Texas, and in Oklahoma and into the plains, you've got a lot of red flag warnings for low humidity, high winds. Wildfires are starting quickly. These green ones are where you're seeing brand new fires show up. If you click on one of these, by the way, you can get notes on that fire. So this is almost 99 acres. It doesn't look like it's contained very well. This was reported in the last day. And so you can see all of the different fires that are out here. And so a lot of wildfire activity here. Be very, very careful in here. Don't burn anything outside because these things are spreading rapidly. So in the last couple things I wanted to show real quick is just really just the pattern over the next couple of weeks. We talked about this yesterday and the day before. Active patterns shaping up. So we're seeing storm systems just continually move in. Our storm system's exiting off the coast as we get on into next Wednesday. Into Thursday, look, another system takes shape in the plains, snow on the north, thunderstorms. This is 991 millibars, not 970, so it's not nearly as strong, but still there's going to be some level of likely some shower and thunderstorm activity, although it doesn't look like a major severe weather event. And then what happens? Another system crashes into the west coast. It starts to form in the plains. This low builds up, it moves to the Great Lakes. It doesn't look like a lot with that, but again, any of these systems could kind of blow up. Here's the next one coming in Sunday, March the 23rd. You've got it blowing up here over Kansas again, and it's moving out. This one looks like a little bit more of a robust signature. A lot of moisture to work with. Storms coming into Florida, into the southeast. So this could, if this were to take this track, it could present a southeastern threat for severe weather. Again, in areas farther to the south and east. And so we'll watch this. No reason to pay attention to the exact track or the placement of these things just yet. Just know that it's an active pattern. More systems are coming into the west coast. There they come across the country again. So over the next 2 weeks, system after system continues to march. We see no signs of that pattern slowing down at all. So it's going to be busy, and we're going to have to stay on top of everything. Our 8 to 14 days, so basically week 2, we're looking at above normal for much of the country, and then same story that we've seen the last few days. Higher probabilities for greater than normal precipitation on the East Coast and on the West Coast, particularly in the Northwest, below normal out here in the desert Southwest, particularly in Texas, where you all need some rain, and sort of near normal chances in the center of the country. So that is your outlook for today. Make sure that you are paying attention to the weather over the next several hours out here in the lower Mississippi Valley into the deep south, into the mid south. Keep your eye to the sky. Listen, have multiple ways of getting alerted. This is a very dangerous situation in this area. Again, I can't stress that enough. And just pay attention to the weather today and stay safe. I'll be back again with another update. If conditions are favorable for a big severe weather outbreak tomorrow, which I don't think they will be along the East Coast, I'll be back with a quick update in the morning. Otherwise, probably be back on Monday. But follow me on X at Real Cold Rain and subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends and family. If you have friends and family out here, warn them, let them know something's going on and they need to pay attention. Everybody should know it by now. Subscribe, share the video, let people know what's going on. If you have any questions, put those in the comment section. Any prayer requests, put those in there too. I pray for them. But I hope you all have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.